and you'll see a couple of tech cards that are there for certain kinds of matchups, and I think it really helps to give him an edge. So someone like Forsen, as you can see that that camera spot.
If there's a way to summarize yesterday's games with Reynad, I think this picture does a good job.
Forsen. Anyways, I was saying he likes to be very aggressive and play decks that have very powerful swing turns in them, and kind of go from there. Where Amaz is looking for it. You know, every player is always looking for a swing turn at this level of play, but he's more of a consistent throughout the game. Continue to surmount or continue to amount an incremental advantage as opposed to just one really big turn and kind of going from there.
Yeah, Shader Next Ramus, by the way, a good representation of that increment, as you know, Forsen was able to utilize that very effectively. We're trying to get his webcam synced up here, but it seems like we're having a little bit of issues with that. But in the meantime, enjoy your funny little screenshots that you can take for your desktop.
That's all. It's on my desktop is Forsen screen caps.
Sure, sure.
Which is definitely
all right,
a turn, I think.
Amaz is going to start off a little bit more aggressive, and he does have a Northshire Cleric to kind of back it up. It seems like Amaz really understands this point of view of ways you can win, which often is a little bit unconventional, whether it's fatiguing out your opponent with draws like Northshire Cleric or just killing them with shit of value. He's demonstrated many times. I've been seeing it on his YouTube a lot as highlights of how he approaches this mirror, which is often very fun, especially when Thoughtsteal RNG is into account.
I want to see Thoughtsteal, which steals a Thoughtsteal.
Thoughtstealception. You know, it's really powerful if that's the case, because you're constantly you're basically drawing more cards and being able to use it. And Thoughtsteal synergizes with things like Pyromancer.
I am very surprised that he didn't play Shade this turn.
See, is he worried about like a Power Word Shield and then into like a Holy Smites defacing kill or something? Your wish is his command, by the way. Thoughtsteal to a Thoughtsteal and a Holy Nova.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's looking to scale into to other plays, but
yeah,
is the coin? I don't know. Is it really worth that much?
What are you asking? What's worth enough?
He kept coin in order to play Shade one turn later, where Shade this turn would just like I don't know. Maybe I'm not seeing it right. I guess the coin, like holding the coin, allows him to save for Shadow Mastery, so he can kill one of his opponent's guys. Like if he Shadow Masteries the Wild Pyromancer to deal 1 damage to everything, and then he can run the Wild Pyromancer into the Northshire Cleric, so I guess that's fine. Wow, is that...
Yikes.
This is some pretty... Those Thoughtsteals are, like, not exciting, but they're pretty good. Honestly, like, I think you're really happy to have extra copies of Holy Nova. I think the extra Holy Fire is really important in this matchup. Removal at a certain point is going to be very rare. It's something you want to pick up now while you can. And then now he's using the Shade so aggressively too. Like, are you worried about your opponent having 2 Northshire Clerics?
Well, you're worried that one of them's damaged, and if you leave it up, then he's able to draw 2 cards. And in the mirror matchup, you don't want to go down in cards, because then they can pick... In general, in any control mirror, they can pick the removal they want appropriately rather than kind of use makeshift. Like in this case, using Holy Nova a little bit more liberally, but only to kill 1 minion. But it pans out correctly, because if the Yeti attacks and he plays a minion, then he can use the Alkanized Soul Priest to potentially kill it off, or even something else. A coin and stealing that Northshire Cleric is also a nice play too.
Saving coin really paying off in spades this turn, so I gotta give my hats off to Forsen for that one. I definitely would have played this game differently.
Okay, Amaz draws Harrison Jones, a card that, you know, honestly hasn't been very good for him lately. He's been drawing it and forced to play it against Druids, against, you know, non-weapon classes. He's going to drop Lotheb and try to see what he can do, what he can go from here. And Lotheb is the most intimidating minion on this board, but still, Forsen has a way to draw cards and taunt up and make Amaz's life a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, this is going to be a big push for damage here. Second Holy Fire. Not sure he can utilize the Holy Fire, though.
Well, not at least right now, but, you know, it is he knows his opponent's playing Yetis and Control Shadow Priest, so it is a way to answer these 4 attack minions.
Gosh, Gosh, Forsen is a couple cards off having a really strong combination with this Holy Nova.
Certainly. Let's see what he draws off his lesser heal. The Dark Cultist.
It's probably another Sludge Belcher turn.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're continuing to press. Using Shadow Word Death on this and pressing is also not really that bad in my opinion, but I think it's still really important to just continue to push out these minions. Okay, so we're just gonna go.
I must really not understand something about these priest matches because I
think it's okay because you're playing around a few things and you're also pressing for damage, which is the most important.
I don't think it's bad. Let me I guess recorrect this. I don't think it's bad. It's just we're taking two very different approaches to the same road. I want to get stuff developed on the board, and he's trying to force his opponent to use spells that they don't want to be using this early.
Sure.
And he's doing a really good job at it too.
Well, there's a couple of trains of thought. One, you don't want to load up too much for Soul Priest combinations with Circle of Healing and overextend into it. The second is, in the mirror matchup, from my experience, is that you want to leverage your 4-attack means as much as you can. And, being able to press and, targets on Lotheb for Shadow Word Death is usually pretty optimal anyways. The only thing better in Amaz's deck is usually the Ragnaros. So I think with that in mind, Forsen is just trying to leverage his board position and continue to pressure his opponent by using his minions and his removal effectively. Because oftentimes, if you're trying to answer it when it's too late, like say the Alkanite goes for the clear and you're using Shadow Word Death to answer, but you have no board yourself, then in that case, Shadow Word Death's much weaker.
Indeed. Deathlord's got to be a kind of a scary card to play right here, by the way.
Do you ever feel good about stealing the opponent's Deathlord with the Cabal Shadow Priest?
No, I don't. I'm not a big fan of Deathlord. I think it certainly has its uses, and there are times I think when that card can be extremely strong, but it's a card that I prefer to avoid. I've seen like a 90% fetch Savannah Highmane rate off of my Deathlords.
Gosh,
for my opponent. So even when they're playing like a rogue, like Savannah Highmane hits the board, I'm like, what the heck did even get in your deck?
So you're really not a fan.
No, I'm not.
Shadow Madness, by the way, if he wants to use this to attack, is really clever, and he's going to go for it. There it is. Steal it. He still has mana for Holy Nova, and this is a lot of cards.
Oh, you don't want a Holy Nova with a Sludge Belcher.
Nope.
Still in play, Make sure you use that first. And draw infinite.
Draw 3 cards and heal almost everything back up to full health. And see what minion pops up on your side, too. Another Northshire Cleric. Now this introduces like an element. Circle of Healing, 12 cards.
Yeah, that's an okay draw.
Yeah, like how what's the best way to do this? He doesn't have an easy damage piece like Power Word Shield. If it was Power Word Shield, maybe he could have done something cool. Amaz has to kind of quickly think about these puzzles too, because unfortunately, as much as you can execute these cool combos, draws with Northshire Clerics and Starving Buzzard often take a lot of time. So you have to make sure to get ahead of it early because you need the time to buffer for the animations to catch up the rope.
Can he run his opponent out of cards? Is that what he's looking at?
Let's see. So 2 cards per heal, the Circle of Healing.
He'd need to cast a spell first. So if he casts like Holy Nova, it kills the opponent's board.
Yeah.
Gosh, if he had something like Power Word Shield, this would be so brutal.
Exactly. That would be 12 cards drawn right there from the Circle of Healing.
14 actually, because of the Wild Pyromancer too. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. And then 2 more from the heal itself. Amaz might have to go for another thing like a circle play with the Alkanite Soul Priest, if this ends up being the case. I don't remember, by the way, which one came in first, the Dark Cultist or the Sludge Belcher, but that also might be important for the buff.
Sludge Belcher. Okay. Always got to do something quick.
I think it is Alkanite Soul Priest combo. It doesn't feel very good, but you got to do it quickly. And unfortunately, it's a missed opportunity for Amaz, just barely. Because he could have drawn his opponent and fatigued him, burning the rest of his deck while being able to put him on fatigue. He would have been in danger of potentially dying, but now we could have never known.
Just one of those spots. You're missing one or two key pieces
Ooh.
to making it happen.
And what about a way to add insult to injury? Power Word Shield off the Thought Steal for Amaz. And if it's the next card, I think he'd be pretty disappointed.
Wow. Not forcing his 3 copies of Holy Fire. I don't know if I
15
don't know
damage
if,
burn.
yeah, I don't know if you're seeing Amaz actually win this game. This has been a very strong start to finish so far for Forsen.
Okay. Forsen still has, as much as he's got a lot of burn, he still kind of has to piece together a board, and Amaz has ways to answer things. Oh, well, Yeti's a good start, too. Again, you want to leverage these minions, the 4 attack minions, as high as you can. And it seems like from this point on, it's just like a bullying. I don't really see how Amaz can keep up with these draws.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. I don't really see much you can do about this. Like 8 mana Shadow Word Death after he's got a Wild Pyromancer on the board as well. That's at 1 health, and it's like, ugh.
Yeah, you
Nothing
got to spend
feels
your
good.
entire turn just killing the Lotheb.
I'm just not seeing a winning combination here.
Okay.
I guess attack the face.
Yeah,
Something
well,
else to do.
unfortunately, Forsen has the response too with the Holy Smite. Man, this Yeti just refuses to die. How many Power Word Shields does he have?
30.
What is going on? Just missing an inner fire. Of all strategies that, like, all the cheeses I've ever seen, you know, whether it's like the Wind Fury Leroy combos that I used to see in Shaman or Murlocs or some of the other stuff, inner fire cheese is yet the one to be seen in high level play that I want to, just because of the fact that they lost to inner fire, not because of anything else.
Hey, you know, I double Divine Spirit inner fired a Shady Next Ramus the other day. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, but if you do it in the HyperX Invitational, you become a legend. You become a god. By the way, let's see what the Shadow Word Pain is going to bring out and summon from Forsen's deck.
Ugh. Anything it gets just feels brutal.
Yikes. And that's an instance where the Death Lord is a very negative impact.
Yeah, it's a big
Forsen's very happy for that.
I think it's a big liability in this matchup. This is pretty much going to seal it, by the way. Amaz has got nothing left. He's got no way to really draw anything. You're looking at 10, 12, 14 direct damage in Forsen's hand, plus all the damage he has on the board. He's got card advantage. He's got life advantage. He's got board advantage. He's got a hotel advantage on Boardwalk. He's kind of got everything at this point. There's just no way Amaz
That's right,
is going to get out
Do
of it.
not pass go. Do not collect $200. This game's over. Go straight to jail.
Yep.
You're going to need more than just double sixes in order to get out of this one. By the way, Holy Fire to the face is more than enough. But it seems like Forsen is opting to go for the Alkanite Soul Priest finish. A little bit of gratitude. Amaz drops game 1. Forsen wins the Priest Mirror. Starts off the series.
Game. And it's something that Deathlord, I feel like, is kind of working against that plan in terms of your own card, and Chillwind Yeti really working out in Forsen's favor.
Yeah, I think now Amaz picks a pretty good matchup in my opinion. Paladin scales into late game very nicely against Priest if Priest doesn't build up a really strong board early on. But that's kind of what Forsen's deck specializes in. He's got a lot of these smaller creatures like Shaded Next Ramus early on in order to kind of have something intimidating late game. So let's see if it works out for him. But Amaz does have a lot of really key cards, Equality, of course, being one of them. Hero power, and basically keeping whatever priest is out as a low threat with Peacekeeper and Humility. So I expect Amaz to be very well prepared for this kind of matchup. Excuse me.
Yeah, this is a matchup where I feel like the hero power just really outscales Priest in the late game. You're looking at making 1/1s versus healing for 2. I mean, this isn't a warrior matchup where they can make use of their armor with cards like Shield Slam. This is just pure health. Now, are you at all worried about the shades?
As a paladin, when you have Equality and Peacekeeper, I don't think so.
Yeah.
There might come a time, but for now, you're kind of just cruising, and making sure that you just don't take too much. Forsen, wow, he really is interested in making this just a straight up 3/3 for 3 mana. With the potential for more.
Whoa. I'm really surprised he chose to attack the...
Right, it figures if anything, you attack maybe into the Harvest Golem. But interesting choice.
Well, I sort of attacking initially I thought was fine because again, as you were talking about, like it's just going to get swept by equality so often that he wants to get something out of it just before anything incidental happens. But is there any difference in attacking the 1/1 and attacking your opponent's face there? Like your opponent's just going to attack your guy
True
with his
Silver
1/1 and
Champion.
his 2/3, right?
I think he's playing around the 4 drops of True Silver Champion and making sure that it can't just easily kill off the Yeti. And then the next turn, the Shade of Naxxramas would be full for anyways, and you can kill that off too. So he doesn't want
it's a
really
prevent on this
powerful.
Yeti. Okay, that
Yep.
makes a lot more sense. Good call.
I think this is the small decisions that may end up paying off, even though that's not what happened whatsoever. We saw that Amaz forewent his True Silver Champion to play a taunt to answer the Yeti. So even if that doesn't happen, the fact is Forsen was keeping that in mind. Black Knight off the top is pretty nice too. There's not many taunts in the Priest deck, but Sludge Belcher is one of the best.
I imagine this is going to be the Harvest Golem. Yep. Or the Damage Golem, rather. Sorry.
Don't allow that Yeti to pick up value. You know, Priest gets so much mileage off their heals, so if you're able to trade a minion, heal up the Yeti, they're already feeling like they're in a pretty good spot.
Right.
Not to mention that also that's a liability for turn 6 Cabal Shadow Priest, even if he doesn't have it. You just don't want to make sure to enable it whatsoever. Okay.
This looks like a pretty good turn for Amaz here. This is probably the turn he was looking for. This is going to really swing the game in his favor.
And make it difficult on your opponent, because even if he has a response with like Holy Nova, now you can start taking initiative on the board.
Right.
And Priest is struggling on cards. There's no Northshire Cleric to draw early on. And Forsen doesn't have a lot of those combos. He's got good cards by independent stature, but he needs ways to kind of piece it together. Yeti comes out, but that's just a little bit what he's afraid of. The Yeti plus the hero power, or sorry, the True Silver Champion plus the hero power is enough to take it out.
Yep.
And once again, Amaz can just play whatever he wants.
This is part of how Paladin really begins to scale this game out of control. Because this hero power, it's threatening at pretty much every stage of the way for Priest. And then once both players are kind of done with their opening trades, and they're done developing their mid and late game cards, everything kind of gets traded down because it's the nature of both of these classes. They like to trade a lot. This hero power just gets out of control. Priest doesn't have an efficient way to answer it.
And, Forsen is debating, because even if you use Cabal Shadow Priest to steal from it, it's still a very weak play in the big grand scheme of things. And he's going to go for the Yeti, which is basically just sacrifice for this True Silver. So this True Silver's killed 2 Yetis. And that you can't really ask for much better than that.
Not too shabby. I'd be very reluctant to play Acolyte here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I feel like either of the 5 drops are a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I think they definitely are.
Lotheb and, I mean, Harrison doesn't really do much, but at least it's like a bait for the Shadow Word Death. But at the same time, if Lotheb draws Shadow Word Death, your opponent's just giving up his entire turn while you basically get a free hero power in exchange.
Exactly.
Okay, Forsen needs something. Yikes. Power Word Shield.
Looks like it's just going to be a return Lotheb and hope, but Aldor Peacekeeper. But it was just with the way these hands are panning out, I don't think there's anything Forsen can do to really turn this game around. Aldor Peacekeeper is going to keep his whole army fresh. He's going to keep making 1/1s. He's got equality in case the board ever does get out of hand.
Hmm.
All the tools necessary.
Yeah, he's got draws too. Forsen does have combos too the next turns. So he got like Power Word Shield and Holy Fire, so he can continue to fight a little bit. Lotheb timing is still not that great for Forsen, so he opts to go for Cabal Shadow Priest, take that 1/1, and that's going to make Amaz much more comfortable to play the Acolyte. But he draws into Sunwalker, which is one of the cards that gives Priest the most headache possible.
do you do this?
Let me.
I still think this is an outdoor peacekeeper turn. Keep your Loatheb fresh. Develop your board. I guess he's thinking about Alkanai Circle. That's something that he needs to keep in mind. How does he best play around that? How does he keep from falling victim to Alkanai Circle so that way he can actually keep the board in his favor in case something goes wrong? Ideally, he'd like his opponent to Alkanai Circle under a point where it's like he feels desperate to do so, as opposed to like this is a great spot to do it.
It's a good point. By the way, if Amaz ends up going for like a way to kind of power play the board and be greedy, say he plays a Sunwalker, which it doesn't look like he will whatsoever, but that he would have actually died to the Holy Fire play. So he's going to go for the Acolyte. He's already seen the Cabal Shadow Priest, so he's less afraid of it.
Yep.
And just continue to press for damage. I like it.
This is exactly one of those spots that we were talking about. He wanted to get into a spot where Alkanai Circle was not a strong play versus him. It looks like Shadow Madness.
You can draw 2 cards, right?
Yeah. I think you can Wild Power. You can draw more than that. You can play Wild Pyromancer. You can Shadow Madness. That's going to ping off. That's going to ping all your guys and deal damage. Then you can Shadow Word. I'm sorry. Then you can use Power Word Shield on your Wild Pyromancer. That'll draw another card. And then you can attack with it and draw another card.
See, it does a total of how much damage? About 3 damage, I think.
2, 3, yeah. I think he wants to wait, though. I think he... Oh, my gosh.
Tyrion has arrived, and that's one of the win conditions. One of the very few that Paladin has, aside from just play patty cake until fatigue damage starts settling in.
This has got to be the turn to start making this happen.
Oh, yeah. Especially when Amaz has been just playing post-removal, right? He's been trying to time everything so that way it's just not optimal. The Acolyte after the Cabal Shadow Priest, the Sunwalker after the Holy Fire has been played. And it seems like he will go for these draws. Cool little sequence of events that allows him to do some damage.
Oh my gosh.
Even a Thought Steal. Okay. And all of a sudden, he drew what, like three cards that turn? 4 cards.
Yeah, that was a 3-card draw turn, plus the additional, the replacement on Power Word Shield. Amaz looks stunned almost. Like, did that really just happen?
Not quite what was planned.
Okay, this is bad. He's stealing my cards.
Well, the good news is that Amaz has some of the better cards in his deck anyways, right? So Forsen can't Thought Steal Tyrion, or I guess this Sludge Belcher at least.
Right. Let me ask you this. Thought Steal seems like it's a really important tool in this matchup. If you have Tyrion in your opening hand in this matchup, do you just keep it so your opponent cannot Thought Steal it?
You mean in the opening mulligans?
Yeah, right.
I think that's a little too optimistic. Because even if it's still in the deck, it's still a low percentage chance of getting Thought Stolen, right?
It depends. Depends how many cards are there.
I think there's bigger things you have to worry about, like what cards you can get early on. You know, quality is even important too. You also have Harrison Jones, coincidentally, so say if he does Thought Steal Tyrion, you might even just be able to Harrison to Ashbringer. By the way, Forsen picks up another draw engine card, the Northshire Cleric, but you do want to be kind of cautious. As the game continues to develop, now they're on 10 mana, and we're starting to hit turns 14 to 15. You want to be cautious with how much you're drawing, because these games do often go into fatigue, and as much as you have a hand, you just don't want to be hitting fatigue damage before the Paladin does. Still about halfway through the decks, though, so they still got plenty of time.
Yep. It's a good point to note. Fatigue is something. At some point, you do have to consider fatigue. You can't just continue to draw cards and rely on sheer card advantage to crush your opponent.
Okay, is Forsen going to draw a card with Holy Nova? Could be the case. Has to kind of move fast as the rope is counting down. I mean, these matchups, they are a little bit slower. Paladin versus Priest is one of the slowest I can ever think of, other than maybe Paladin versus anything else. Warrior. And Thoughtsteal will end up going for a clear, leaving it at a very fragile board. Let's see what he steals. Lay on hands. Okay.
I don't even think. I think the lay on hands has had to be one of the worst steals in the deck, considering he can just draw basically as many cards as he needs to draw.
Yeah, it's not really, again, a card advantage battle. It's just often the board development.
Yeah, I mean card advantage is taken into account, but as you were just saying, you can draw too many cards, and if there's a matchup where it's going to happen, this is one of them because it's so slow. Neither player's really pressing that much to try to get a life edge, and neither of you really have huge burst combos. It's more of a grind.
Man, how do
Karen,
you go
of
from
course.
here? Karen is so difficult to deal with.
This is part of why Priest struggles so much in this matchup. I mean, look at how many extra cards Forsen has drawn, and the game is. I mean, he's basically still behind.
Yeah, he has card advantage, and he's been taking board initiative, and yet every single time that Paladin plays a minion, it feels like all hell breaks loose.
And Amaz hasn't even really done anything. He's just been kind of casually.
I mean, he's browsing Reddit for all we know at this stage. It's like, only 4 posts today. Less activity than normal. How do we fix this? No, he's intently studying the game. Let's not kid ourselves. Amaz is actually a big student of the game. He's been trying to study very diligently about what his opponents do. Picks up Sylvanas, another control matchup killer. Like Sylvanas is just one of the cards where a good play with it and a good setup often can just net you the game or turn the momentum around if you're losing.
It feels like every deck that he plays has some way to mind control something. Like he can play Sylvanas and then Equality and then with Wild Pyro.
Yeah, or if things ever truly get tough, if he's like plays mind control tech or something.
Mind control tech. That would be way next level. I think this is gonna be Harrison down. That's what it feels like to me. Like this is just it's been long enough. You're not gonna play your Wild Pyromancer. You don't have enough mana for Sylvanas. Tyrion, you got to do something to bait out Tyrion. Like, well, I don't understand holding Harrison here because you have to force something.
Waiting for the Thoughtsteal reveal. What if it's choose Silver Champion? You know, it doesn't have to be Tyrion.
I guess he doesn't have to do anything either. Like that's another benefit he has. He's not really under that much pressure, so he doesn't feel the need to really make something happen.
Yep. Can you go for a clear with Consecration and Wild Pyro this turn? I think he's going to be a little bit short.
Wow.
Thoughtsteal into Equality and Guardian Kings. So Guardian Kings is a nice pickup. Now he's got Equality Consecration, so he's got his own ability to go for full board clear.
He's got three different ways to use. He's got 3 different ways to use Equality to clear the board. He could Holy Nova, he could Consecrate, he could Wild Pyromancer.
Right. This is actually kind of hilarious. Okay.
He's playing Northshire after. This is something I want to clarify. He's playing Northshire after the heals because just what Frodan said, you can draw too many cards in this matchup, and that's the level that Forsen's starting to get to. He wants to utilize this lay on hands at some point in the game, and if he draws too many cards now, those 3 draws off the lay on hands are going to potentially hurt him. So he wants to hedge his bets against that by foregoing card draw while he can.
Amaz has to kind of be cautious too. He's not sitting on a lot of health, so Forsen's been trying to sneak in damage whenever he can here and there, pitter patter. So he needs to be a little bit more mindful of that. Also it gets to the stage where you're not even really afraid of leaving up Northshire Cleric, because again it feeds into that. So I think this is Forsen's second Northshire Cleric, but after this it's going to get. I mean, look how thin Forsen's deck is. It's way thinner than Amaz's. And so Forsen knows it's a priority, absolutely, to suicide into this. Do you feel like this Sylvanas was properly timed, by the way, or do you think it was perfectly fine the way Amaz did it?
I think so. You want to bait out again. You're trying to bait out a Shadow or Death, so you can eventually play this Tyrion. I feel like that's ideally the goal. But you can't just be in fear of mind control the entire game. So you have to get something done. Like this to me at this point. Was that the second Shadow or Death, or was that the first one?
It's a little bit harder to recall because we did see the Priest Mirror and I saw a lot of Shadow Word Deaths being played there. Yeah. I want to say it's the first one.
I feel like it was.
Yeah, you're right. It's the first one.
Okay.
And now the second one is drawn.
Right, that's why he didn't feel comfortable playing Tyrion, is because he hasn't seen the second one yet. So he's trying to bait out both Shadow Word Deaths before he plays his Tyrion, so that way he can just actually get value out of the 6/6 minion, instead of just getting the 5/3 weapon and going from there.
Okay, Lay on Hands
Wow.
draws Sylvanas, Holy Smite, and Holy Fire, so lots of damage and board control.
That was a really strong turn for Forsen.
Yeah. And now he's got 8 damage lined up with, let's see, Holy Fire, and he's got lots of burn ways and ways to kill the board. So it seems like Forsen's drawing through the rest of the meat of his deck. How does Amaz kind of pull himself out of here?
I think this Harrison's been held on to way too long.
Well, now he's seen let's see, 2 cards already, and Double Thoughtseo has been played, so he figures now is the best time as ever. By the way, Forsen's on his second to last card. Fatigue will start settling in soon. He's got to find a way to continue to press and maybe end this game. Cabal Shadow Priest, by the way, on the Harvest Golem is very massive swing of momentum. And now Amaz is going to have to probably use equality soon.
Yeah, this is looking like a pretty ugly turn for Amaz. This is, oh gosh, and he gets a 2-1 golem afterwards.
Okay, here's
really
the thing though. Priest still has trouble bursting, and Forsen's gonna also be taking fatigue damage. So Amaz is still in it. And you know, the thing is he hasn't able to bait out a second Shadow Word Death either, so that's still a little bit bad.
Do you play the Wild Pyro there just to get pressure?
To sacrifice it into a 2-1, I don't know. I think that's a little bit to get pressure on the fatigue.
Yeah.
A little hard to say, honestly.
Oh my gosh. I think this is oh my gosh.
Oh, hold on. Maz can just to slingshot right back in this game.
He draws the other equality.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
That is what he needed.
That lay on hands I think might have just won him the game.
Fatigue damage #1. It's still like 8 or 9 turns before Forsen's just going to be in critical state. But still, the fact is this damage has started, and Forsen's going to absolutely take his time. True Silver Champion, not too bad either. Gives him a way to play very efficiently.
Oh my gosh.
Let's see.
Forsen's holding on to Sylvanas, by the way. He wants to try to... The reason he's attacking these 1/1s, he wants to keep his opponent's board clear, so he can use Sylvanas and Shadow Word Death to try to steal something like a Tyrion.
Yeah, and if Amaz obviously is very aware of what the Priest can do, I think you know, playing for high value is the best you can do in this situation. This is why True Silver Champion is, by the way, such a critical draw at this juncture. Because now all of a sudden Priest needs to kind of continue to do something and load up the board. Forsen might have run out of damage.
Yeah, that's a very large possibility.
I think it is the reality almost, because how does Forsen continue to win from here? Priest has no way to affect the state of the board without anything played out there, and Sylvanas is the last card. And Amaz is still several cards away from fatigue. I think he has still 4 cards away, 3 or 4 cards. Oh gosh,
Wow,
Sylvanas.
I think that's... Yep, I think that seals the deal right here. Sylvanas is going to bite the dust, and that's pretty much going to do it.
What a turnaround from Amaz, where it looked like he was facing a board that was too powerful. But again, this is exactly what happens in the mirror at times, where you're just a little bit short of answers because Paladin can take its time. The Silverhand recruits just do too much, and Forsen seems to be out of answers here. Has to kind of use like Holy Fire in order to continue to press through. But you know what? I mean, Amaz is perfectly fine with that. Priest can't burst, and now Forsen's stuck with cards that don't really work at the moment.
I'm really surprised he chooses to attack the one there. I feel like he's just got to... I mean, he's going to lose to Sylvanas otherwise, so I guess it makes sense. There's not any way he can really climb out of this. If Amaz has been paying attention, he knows that one of his opponent's cards left is Shadow Word Death. So the only thing he's thinking about is what the stolen card from Thoughtseo was. What could it be that he's worried about? But if it continues to go at this pace, he can just make tokens to threaten the Sylvanas every single turn.
Yep. And Sylvanas is forced to attack into it. Okay.
Yeah, I think this play is totally fine.
Well, you know, he could have saved it too. Like, he could have played a quality Pyro... Oh, no. Well, I guess he didn't want to give it the Pyromancer, but... Either way, it seems like Amaz has a... that Forsen's been bringing, and Amaz, he did ban the Miracle Rogue. And Forsen banned the Hunter. So now these guys are playing with it, knowledge in mind. Mage should be stronger. It seems like he mulligans away the Harvest Golem, which is not something you always push out immediately, because Harvest Golem in opening hand is usually good. But he's rewarded with Flame Strike, one of the most expensive costing cards, and a couple of mid-range creatures.
Yeah, I'm actually curious. I'm actually curious why he mulliganed Harvest Golem.
He wanted Mad Scientist or like Kirin Tormage plus Secrets.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. Is that really just the only combination he's looking for? Like, do you just quite literally mulligan everything in your deck that isn't Mad Scientist or Kirin Tormage?
Well, at least the good thing is that Mirror Entity can do work against control decks if you time it correctly. So at least, you know, you don't want necessarily to pull it. Like, say the Mad Scientist dies early for some reason. You don't necessarily want to pull it that early, because then most likely it'll copy something like a Peacekeeper, and you're like, well, you could have forced an awkward situation where you can't play Sludge Belcher or Sunwalker.
Yep. Speaking of forcing Peacekeepers, quote unquote, I think that Amaz is quite okay with this being forced.
There you go.
Feels pretty happy to use Peacekeeper and start drawing cards here.
Forsen picks up Mana Worm number 2. That makes more sense also. When he has coin, you mulligan aggressively for Mana Worm. Makes total sense as well.
I will admit that the Water Elemental poses a pretty big threat to True Silver Champion, which Amaz happens to have 2 copies of right now.
Huh. Also true. Okay, so I guess in the end he did get Harvest Golem in his opening hand. Just more as a trap card than anything else.
You've activated my trap card.
There needs to be some kind of emote for that. I think on the new adventure mode or expansion or whatever, Blizzard should find a way to work that in. Uther, you don't stand a ghost of a chance.
Yugi Stone.
Did you ever watch the Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged series? Please tell me.
Okay, so I used to have to babysit my nephew every morning when he was a lot younger, and he really liked watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And the only episode that I ever paid attention to was this guy like throws a handful of cards in the air, and he goes, "These cards are mocked," and he throws them in the air, and they like shatter into pieces. And I was like, "What is going on in this game?"
Trust me, if you start watching in the middle, the series makes absolutely no sense. But then again, I watched in the beginning, and the series still made no sense. So, I think you just kind of watch it for the nostalgia value. If you watched it as a kid, it was a lot of fun. And you know, it has a lot of translations to Hearthstone because you feel like you activate trap cards and you're able to top deck stuff, believe in the harder cards, etc. Everyone says Amaz is Yugi Moto. Raynad, of course, is Pegasus. You know, because he made Hearthstone. So,
I get it.
Yeah. All right, so Forsen, by the way, he sees that Black Knight comes out, which is kind of annoying because he still has to deal with this board. And this Acolyte Pain is still doing so much work, just drawing cards off of it. And Mage is supposed to be stacking its tempo with things like secrets. Like Kirin Tor Mage is supposed to be able to push out a secret early, and then you use things like Fireball while being able to pressure in order to end the game. This is not supposed to drag out late stages where you're trying to go toe-to-toe with like Control Paladin or Ramp Druid. It's trying to end the game in the next few turns normally. But now instead, Forsen's fighting from behind. Pretty annoying spot.
This battle feels like it's going to be just a really big grind, which seems like every Paladin game when you think about it. How can we?
Yeah, you know, I always kind of think Paladins are secretly masochists because of how long and excruciating. It is a little bit excruciating how long some of the Paladin games take. It's like usually when you play Hearthstone when you're at work or you're at school and you're studying, it's just like you want to play a quick 5-10 minute game. So if you're playing combo, mid-range, or aggro, or whatever, you know, those games take a little bit of time. But when you play Paladin, you're expecting to play like 2 or 3 games an hour, which is insanely long.
That's why we see so few Paladins.
Sure. People just don't have the patience to do it.
They're all already in games. I've actually been into Paladin games since this beginning of our first game this morning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just
Or
fatigued for
Jojo
8.
versus boss.
I just fatigued for 18.
By the way, so you know, Sunwalker still pretty strong. You're trying to make sure to play around Flame Strike as well because you're coming up on that turn where Mage can take a big advantage by using that massive AoE.
I was about to say how surprised I would have been had he not used this humility. This Cairn.
Okay. You know, Forsen still hasn't drawn other really important cards too, like Duplicate. I think Duplicate's a big crux of making this deck match up well against like slower decks, because now you're able to play these repetitive threats multiple times. Things like Sludge Belcher, you can get 4 of them effectively if you're able to use Duplicate very well. So, you know, whether you want to kind of use it on mid-range creatures or even your early game creatures to kind of be able to stack momentum, usually it's really important to get it out early. But now Forsen's in this position where the Sunwalker poses to be such a threat. Does he have to use something like Fireball in order to push through?
Well, a lot of things are being posed as a threat right now, and the biggest one I think is the lack of board initiative that you're going to be able to seize in the next couple of turns. If you overcommit too much, you're kind of being threatened by his already used up minions picking apart your board with something like True Silver Champion or Consecration. And at the same time, if you underdevelop your board, you're just going to lose the game. You have to do something to try to fight against what's happening here, and that's really the difference between winning and losing in a spot like this, is how much value you can get out of something. So playing the Kirin Mage here, along with the Mirror Entity, this is just, he wants to ramp up his board development and hope that something gets done. So I feel like there's very little way for Amaz to accurately predict what this secret's going to be. I would imagine you think it's Duplicate, given the way
Right,
that
in which case you test first by killing the Harvest Golem.
Do you kill a Harvest Golem or do you kill the Violet or the Kirin Mage?
I guess it really depends which you're more comfortable facing.
Because if you're going to continue to kill more Harvest Golems, you're just going to keep getting 2-1s. And not that that's like a big threat, but that can sort of add up. Whereas the Kirin Mage, it's like it's one shot and it's done.
Yeah, I guess the secrets end up draining his own hand anyways. Seems like he's going to test for it anyways. Duplicate on the Harvest Golem, doesn't see
so he knows, right, so he knows it's not Duplicate now.
Is the counter spell, in which case he might be scared of doing anything else. Obviously not something like Vaporize or Ice Barrier. If you tack into it, you'll see it's not. And this is like one of the trickiest things with the variety of secrets that Mage has now.
For justice.
Yeah, I sort of agree with this line of play. Just kind of kill his stuff. Mirror Entity is a thought in his mind too, so he doesn't want to play a minion yet. He's just gonna wait. Like at this point, the board development's been stalled, so True Silver Champion and just Hero Power ends up being a better board development for him. It prevents his opponent from being able to develop when he does that. It's kind of ironic. The less you play, the less your opponent plays.
Sure. Okay, Forsen's going to answer just smaller mid-range creatures and try and answer. Amaz picks up Cairn, and again, that Mirror Entity is in the back of his mind. The best thing he can do is play Elder Peacekeeper first and figure out, but, you know, following up is a little bit tricky because, again, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you overextend.
This looks like Aldor. This looks like some sort of combination of Aldor Peacekeeper and a Quality Consecrate to me.
Okay. Well, he's going to find out it's Mirror Entity immediately.
Yep. He's going to feel really comfortable, I think, here with the Quality Consecrate.
His hand is looking very solid to follow it up. You know, normally you're afraid of using Quality Consecrate if you don't have good minions to follow it up. Because then all of a sudden you're just fighting with just hero powers in the top of your deck. But he's got Cairn and he's got Sentient Seal Master, which is enough health to give Mage an amount of annoyance unless they have Polymorph.
You know, now that I'm looking at this board, I remember that he actually just he's just Eldor Peacekeeper the Bane. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to Quality Consecrate. You can just fight through it normally. He's going to lose a lot of his own board in the process of doing this, but he's okay with that. He's not under any threat of taking a massive amount of damage. He may get his opponent to overcommit to the board and just go for face with this sort of play. He has counterplay to pretty much anything that Forsen's going to present. Of course, with having a quality Consecrate in his hand, but also having the Tez Dingo and another True Silver champion. Using a quality Consecrate here would it'd be too soon, basically.
Sure. Forsen gonna try to draw and see what he picks up. Other cantrip cards like Loot Hoarder. And it seems like he's running a little bit low here on his gas. He does still have this nuke button of the Flame Strike, trying to reset everything. But we know that Amaz was a little bit liberal with his first Consecration because he got his second one lined up.
Yep. Oh, well.
Sludge Belcher. I mean, the walls just continue to pile higher.
The Great Wall of Amaz
He breaks off of a skyscraper, that's for sure.
He's at 20, but he's got a copy of Lay on Hands in his hand as well.
Oh, God, you're right. So he can keep doing this all day.
Yeah,
you know, it's like those training montages where the guy at the very beginning tries to learn how to fight against the sensei, and he's fighting him with one hand and like asking him if he's done yet. You know, can't hit him, land a punch. He's still got so much ready to go. Like, cause look at what Mage's doing. Everything is throwing card after card, whatever, dumping and drawing cards, and in the end, it's just not a threat whatsoever to what Amaz has. He's got a wall of taunts. He's got heals. He's got AOE clear. He's got removal. He's got the best greeting in the game. I don't know. He's got everything.
Well met. I guess you consecrate here. It feels like I don't even know what he needs to do. He could just. I mean, he could wild pyro and lay on hands if he wanted to.
Gosh, I think that's exactly what he's doing. Two Sludge Belchers, Kodo. Oh my goodness gracious!
Put your
it
face
is so
in the light.
over. God, you know, and Forsen can try to. Actually, you know what? Does have duplicate. He might have to a way to continue to put on a little bit of pressure, but his game plan, his end goal, was so oriented around building the board and being able to continue using momentum and like leveraging Flame Strike as a way to disincentivize his opponent building the board against his minions, that it hasn't worked according to plan whatsoever. He's struggling big time, to say the least. This report brought to you by Captain Obvious, also known as Frodan.
I just don't know how Forsen can put together a winning combination of cards. I mean, you used everything in your opponent's 25.
Yep.
And has 7 cards in their hand that are very relevant to your kind of situational and board state dependent cards.
The best is yet to come too. Like, how does he answer Tyrion or Guardian of Kings? How to use Fireball? Like some of these bigger creatures.
Yeah, the game has snowballed out of control really early, and as a result, he's going to struggle to ever get it back.
No, he can't even duplicate because he doesn't want 2 loot hoarders. So he's just gonna wait. Amaz is perfectly fine playing the waiting game, stampeding Kodo, Sludge Belcher. Pick your choice.
Yeah, this game is
It's the scene in the Matrix where Neo and Trinity go into the guns. They just don't know which one to pick because there's too many.
You can write home about this one if you want now.
Oh,
Undertaker. This game's done. Undertaker, I don't think is the answer right now. In fact, I would call that a poor draw at the moment.
I would say I would take a line from Trump and say it's below average. It's not exactly the best they're looking for. I guess you can line up a Flame Strike play. I mean, Forsen by all means is still trying to stay in it and see how much of this Paladin deck in case he hasn't spotted it. For people who are just saying like Forsen just leave or Forsen just end it. For the spirit of for the competitive spirit, you want to at least be able to see as much of your opponent's deck. Also see if your opponent might misstep somewhere where you have an opening. You never know because there has been crazy stuff where people give windows to opportunity because they're not able to close the game.
For sure. The information is the most important part, by the way.
Yes.
Any additional thing that you can get from your opponent will help you in your mulligans, can help you develop a game plan for your last deck, so on and so forth.
All right, Flame Strike finally revealed. But Amaz, of course, knew that. He saw it yesterday when he was playing against Reynad. Forsen passing it back, and this is where I feel like Amaz is super comfortable doing, again, just loading up the board, taking his time to address things. You can use Holy Light as on one of his creatures to continue healing up.
Okay, what does Forsen need to draw? He needs to draw Arcane Intellect into 2 healing touches. Then he needs to draw another Arcane Intellect into a Frost Nova and an Ice Block, into a Deathwing, and then probably draw a Deathwing every turn for the rest of the game.
Alright, well, low tab is a start. If he's able to suicide, draw a double low tab.
It's a start! Yeah, this game's been over for a while, but again, it was a matter of going through the motions and trying to get a little bit more information out of Amaz's deck to see a lot in order to give you some extra effects, along with Unstable Ghoul. So sweeping out your opponent's board is sort of a coincidental effect that happens just as you continue to play the game. It's not so much as like a Priest, where Priest needs to Holy Nova to clear it. Like Holy Nova's purpose is to clear it, but Deathbite it's serving a two-purpose. It has a dual purpose. So it's helping you get past the point of where the Paladin hero power can really take over the game.
Yeah, and that's where the versatility of Warrior has improved some of his weaker matches with things like Deathbite. But at the same time, it's all about how the Warrior starts. There are possibilities of it getting kind of a very what's the word, pedestrian start, where you're just doing nothing and hero powering. But Forsen doesn't have that. He has Frothing Berserker, so maybe he can kind of pressure and utilize this card in order to leverage and trade for better cards. Like if he uses Frothing Berserker and is able to pick up a higher value card, like use it to pick apart Sludge Belchers, you never know. Maybe he's able to kind of get an advantage early and never look back.
Outlaw Peacekeeper can set the Frothing Berserker's power to 1, but it will continue to grow with every point of damage dealt to a minion. This is a lesson that I didn't learn very well with the way the interaction with stuff like Peacekeeper and Enrage works. I thought if a minion got enraged, and then you Peacekeeper the enraged minion, that if the enraged minion became damaged again, that it would re-enrage. It doesn't work that way. So then I, at one point, thought that meant that Frothing Berserker wouldn't grow. And then I just killed myself accidentally one time. I was like, what?
By the way, nice draw into Death's Bite. That's kind of the way you want to do it. Let's kind of look over and see if you position yourself to easily die. How much attack do you make for this Frothing Berserker? 1 from the Senjin, 3 from honestly, the Whirlwind, plus...
I don't think this is a bad turn to execute, even.
Yeah. Well, one thing that this does do, by the way, if he when he goes for this trade, which seems to be like an insane amount of attack, is Truce over Champion becomes like a really tough answer whatsoever. So you're forcing like a Peacekeeper if he has it. And just look, 9 damage off the top. Frothing Berserker already has become worth it, and still not even dealt with yet.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to grow. It's going to be back to a 3-2, so it's still relevant.
Here we go.
He's not following the rules at all. Last time I checked.
Really? I wonder why you wouldn't just play Sludge Belcher and attack for 1.
You don't like... I mean, he's pressuring. He's taking the opportunity. Because Control Paladin does take a while in these first few turns to ramp up. They're only playing 1 turn per threat. I mean, look, if this gets executed, or even, Shield Slam, Shield Block, and you're able to continue to press, it's still going to get tricky. Like, Forsen's going to be sneaking in 8 damage potentially next turn.
Oh, that's an Acolyte. I don't like the attack on the Outdoor Peacekeeper there. Like, if he plays Sludge Belcher, his Frothing Berserker's protected. He can't push through it. The Sludge Belcher is going to naturally get the Frothing Berserker to grow. Whoa.
Wow. What an aggressive approach. I mean, he's just taking the opportunity to close out the game. And he's saying,
Oh
you
my
don't have a
gosh.
quality, and even if you do, you don't have the way to clear it. And Amaz is down to 12 health, staring at potential lethal. This Frothing Berserker's once again going to get neutered. This needs to hit an important target.
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
This
See how
game
much
is
he's got. 8
crazy.
damage. Death Spite off the top is game. Shield
I-
block could also still draw into it, but I think he's going to take the safer approach.
This is something that we see from Forsen a lot too, where he continues to be very aggressive in his approach to these games. He's always pushing for damage and harassing his opponents. And honestly, this is even kind of reflective of his StarCraft style, where he played really all-in strategies that a lot of people thought were kind of crazy. And he
Forsen's a
does this,
cheeser, man.
well,
It's StarCraft.
frankly, it's just strong play. He understands the matchups and the purpose of them and how to move forward. And he steals a game, I think, here where a lot of people wouldn't have won with the way that
Creation would have been the only response, and Lotheb sealed the deal. So a lot of these Nax cards coming into play, including the Sludge Belcher, to seal the deal. And now it's going to Game 5, where Forsen and Amaz, the winner will continue in the loser's bracket, and the loser will go home in the first round in the top 8. And neither of these players want that. It seems going to be Shaman against Warrior, and Shaman against in this scenario has always feel like it had the upper edge, unless Warrior had cards specifically tailored to kill it, like Baron Geddons, and it definitely had the brawl and whatnot. How is your feeling on Shaman versus Warrior? Because you've been playing Shaman recently.
It really depends on how both the decks are built. Shaman, I feel like, has taken a much more aggressive edge with stuff like Nerubian Egg and Haunted Creeper, and I think that those two cards really weaken your Warrior matchup. Honestly, they make everything else a lot stronger. Is the key. So a lot of it depend on how Amaz's Shaman deck is going to be built. But since you take that aggressive edge, something to keep in mind is how important totems become in that sort of scenario. You need to over totem. Frankly, you should forego playing a lot of, in my opinion, common development spells in favor of using totems just to try to get these top totems out, to try to get excess totems out, to threaten a Flame Tongue totem, to try to get them to do something to the way that your board development's going to go. So something like Harvest Golem here, honestly, I would like to see him just totem.
Yeah, especially if he has an extra 1 damage creature to kind of push through. Cruel Taskmaster plus the Fiery War Axe is probably the best way Warrior can have to deal with it, other than minions like Sludge Belcher trading into it. So Amaz, you want to save things like Feral Spirit as well. Feral Spirit for after the brawl is usually a good way to reset. But he's going to take initiative once again, so it seems like Amaz is playing aggressive right back at Forsen. I am from the school of thought, similar to you, Admirable, where you want to utilize the hero power as much as possible as Shaman, but Amaz is trying to be super aggressive. When he has cards like Fire Elemental and Harrison Jones to continue to back him up, so perhaps he can make something happen here.
Honestly, the toteming there is more of a preventative measure than it is an aggressive thing. It's like if you play the Harvest Golem and your opponent has a Cruel Taskmaster, you find yourself in a spot where you can't totem anymore because the Cruel Taskmaster is going to directly threaten your totems. Now, call me crazy, but I don't think that Forsen's going to be playing a Cruel Taskmaster without being able to get some value out of the Battle Bribe. As a result of that, if you continue to totem every turn, you start to build to a point where your opponent has to make a decision on how to deal with these totems. They're eventually going to have to play something to try to combat it. And really the earliest thing that you're looking at is Sludge Belcher. So by the time this Sludge Belcher would have hit the board, he's got 3 totems out. So Acolyte of Pain gets played. That's going to get Earthshocked. As we just saw, not a big deal. He can scale into this turn and find a way to combat all this. Like right now, this feels like a super easy Harrison Jones spot. But the problem with this is that after this is Harrison Jones, he's not going to be able to have these huge follow-ups like he would have been having before, where you just add so much pressure to the board that your opponent can't fight through what's happening. Potentially a Harvest Golem and a Feral Spirit in the same turn. Following that with more Feral Spirit and then board clear. He would have had a lot more options going into this, and he could have accomplished the same thing by just toteming instead of playing Harvest Golem.
All right, Forsen, in the meantime, he's got some of the best cards in his hand lined up, ready to go. But this is an opportunity for Amaz to start seizing back the game. Let's see, he can go for many ways to clear his board, but what do you want to develop more? A minion on the board or something like Doomhammer? How much are you afraid of his Harrison Jones? Is it better to develop it earlier so that way he can't get optimal value from it if he draws into it the next couple turns?
I think you definitely are concerned with Harrison Jones, but I think you got to get this Fire Elemental on the board. This is just too much. Really heads up play here from Amaz too. This way he keeps his Harrison at full health. Wow, he even uses Lightning Bolt over using the Harrison. So he wants to keep his armor shredded too to prevent Shield Slam from being available on the Fire Elemental.
Now it's just execute.
He's taking control of this game simply because his tempo plays have been strong the full way through. But yeah, I'm sort of in agreement with you. Like, how important is it to Doomhammer here? Like, if your opponent has Harrison on this Doomhammer, you could potentially fall behind. But this is also another strong turn to play it, because if your opponent commits 5 mana to this turn, that's a lot to commit, and especially in a spot where they're going to need to do some cleanup work on your minions. So you're looking at a couple of spells in execute. Forsen's hand, by the way, is pretty miserable. He's got 3 legendaries in his hand that he can't cast, and a big game hunter.
All right, Amaz is going to trade into it. Doesn't need to use his health unnecessarily. Now that you have Flame Tongue, by the way, that's absolutely when you need to start toteming up as much as possible. And be able to use this Flame Tongue for massive damage, more than just the 4 that it kind of has popping into it. Still saving Doomhammer, because I feel like...
He wants to draw Rockbiter with it, is what he wants.
Yeah, that's true. But then you're missing the 4 damage from the previous turn.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely are, but I think the reason he's saving it is a twofold effect, again, to play around Harrison and because he wants Rockbiter to go with it. Really heads up, again, here from Amaz, not playing this Flame Tongue Totem. If he Flame Tongues this Fire Elemental, this starts becoming vulnerable to things like Big Game Hunter. So this is something else he wants to do. He wants this burst on his opponent to be really hidden, which is one of the reasons he's holding Doomhammer, and one of the reasons he's holding Flame Tongue Totem. That's with a Rockbiter, that's 14 extra damage in his hand. It's something his opponent likely is not going to be accounting for.
All right, well, Ragnaros is going to come out, and it needs to hit something like the Fire Elemental. 1 in 4 targets.
Oh my gosh.
That is critical. Alakir off the top for Amaz is starting to get really rampy with some of the damage that can be coming out.
Oh my gosh. I don't think he has much of a choice other than to start really pressing for damage here.
You know, toteming up. Again, Ragnaros becomes vulnerable to its own Brawl too, so I think as much as you're trying to worry about loading up the board and playing into Brawl, it kind of serves a twofold purpose here. Toteming up. Feral Spirit's still going to keep the Doomhammer.
It's Flame Tongue. Yep.
Okay. Start hammering away.
Wow. These turns are about to get real intense. These draws
need something big. Amaz represents lethal too, because he does have Alakir. How does Forsen kind of bounce back from this?
This is tough.
Can he even bounce back? Is there anything he can actually do here?
He might have to, if he Gromishes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus 10, 17. He needs to hit that Flame Tongue Totem with Ragnaros, I can tell you that.
Okay. And that's only a 1 out of 6 chance, is it?
Oh gosh.
Oh man, it doesn't. It hits actually the worst target because it wasn't doing damage whatsoever. Rockbiter off the top. And Amaz will be advancing. As long as he sees it. There's so many ways to kill him. Doomhammer, Rockbiter, Alakir, through the Flame Tongue Totem.
Yep.
But I think, you know, I personally like attacking face to face. The most manly way to kill him.
I keep Doomhammer every single time. Game 5 to Amaz. This is one of those games that's really unfortunate for Control Warrior, where sometimes you just draw